The biggest video game adaptation of the year, more dogs than you can shake a stick at, they'd like that, and more than one tantalising picture. Hello, I'm Matthew, and this is the What You Played news. Call of Duty the board game was announced. It's of course coming to Kickstarter this autumn. It's for 2 players and it's being produced by Arcane Wonders. We are told that Call of Duty the board game is to bring the acclaimed Call of Duty experience to tabletops, immersing players in intense competitive combat where we will play on the authentic Call of Duty maps such as Shoot House or Standoff. Choose from operators like Ghost Riley or Captain Price, select our favourite weapons and items while we build a custom deck with our signature tactics, then jump right into the action. We will secretly and simultaneously be planning actions before diving into combat, trying to outmaneuver or sneak up on our opponents, or simply throw a grenade into the nearest window and hope for the best. I call it dodging my own grenade because I hit a door frame. Tried and true technique. You can play 4 players, but apparently you're going to need 2 copies of the core set to do it, and they've listed things like expansions that add new maps, operators, weapons, game modes and more, which I'm assuming will be things you can add on to your Kickstarter pledge. The Board Game Geek page lists this in both the miniatures and dice rolling categories, so on top of the decks that we'll be building, it seems we are looking at a Amerithrash skirmish type situation. But which era will this be set in? Modern warfare? World War II? Zombies? Time will tell.
This episode that you are watching right now was made possible in part by Apex Legends, the board game from Glass Cannon Unplugged, coming to Kickstarter on May 17th. Apex Legends, the board game, is a highly competitive, intensely tactical team versus team miniatures game of 60 to 90 minute scenarios for 2 to 4 players. Designed with the look and feel of its video game counterpart, Apex Legends takes place in Kings Canyon, where each player takes on the role of a unique legend. Team by team, characters activate, outmaneuvering their enemies in the heat of battle and creating unpredictable, unforgettable moments. Victory will require tactical thinking and securing key positions on the map, snatching up valuable loot seconds before another player, or even shielding a teammate just in time to save them from oblivion. Follow the link in this video's description to find the Kickstarter for Apex Legends the board game and click Notify Me to be ready for action when its campaign launches on May 17th.
Ezra and Nehemiah is the Eurogame announcement from Garphill Games and design team SJ McDonald and Shem Phillips, the pair behind the trilogy of trilogies. In this historical and even biblical themed game, you'll be building the grand temple that Cyrus the Great decreed many years ago, as well as rebuilding the city walls and gates, and of course there are points for teaching the Torah to returning exiles. Players may also seek to develop their land, travel to settlements outside the city walls, or stoke the altar's fire to keep it burning day and night. And over 3 rounds, or 3 weeks, players will be using their hand of cards, workers and resources to do their part in rebuilding the great city of Jerusalem. And after each 6 days of work, there'll be a Sabbath day of rest where you'll need to feed your people. I think they say in it that you will need food. This one is in the same Ancient Anthologies series as Legacy of You, Hadrian's Wall and Raiders of Scythia, and the Kickstarter is rumoured for later this year. Games for Gamers have announced the wonderfully titled worker placement and worker timing game Trepanation for 2 to 5 players, where in the early 19th century the Western world trembled with fear and excitement around new medical advances. The medical horror Frankenstein was the best-selling novel of the day, and there was medical shows where physicians would electrify corpses, pull teeth, or simply peddle their miracle cures. So, not honestly too unlike today. Sounds like a great night out. In Trepanation, players take on the role of the fraudulent doctors of this era who are performing medical shows for the gullible public and vying to become the most famous medical performers. I think I'm on board with this. Each day you'll have to prepare your schedule, booking time slots at different locations, gathering medical equipment, employing accomplices. Interesting that they don't say assistants. They're all while their other players create shortages of stock and steal your audience. And while performing shows may get your name in the local newspaper, grave robbing in the night damages it. Yeah, grave robbing will do that. But you'll be able to take part in the show when the game is released later this year. Okay, this segment is called Why Did You Announce Your Game Without Any Information or even putting the Board Game Geek page up about it? Come on, people. And it starts with MLEM Space Agency, a new Reiner Knizia game from Rebel Games about cats in space. According to the tweet that Board Game Geek made, this is a press your luck dice game for 2 to 5 players, which is due out in late 2023, where each player has a team of cat-astronauts. They want to place on moons and planets around the Milky Way at large, but can you stay on board the rocket? I'm 1000% getting this, in case you were under any illusion otherwise. Then, in another tweet by Board Game Geek, I might rename this Tweets But No Deets as a segment, but Planet Unknown, which was my favourite game of last year, maybe, top 3, it's very good. Well, Adam's Apple Games have shown off an expansion for it called Supermoon, which is going to be crowdfunding late this year. I'm very excited about this, and honestly, this might be a great way to get hold of the base game, which has been a little elusive for many players. And the final announcement was that I saw Space Base is getting a new expansion from AEG with Space Base Genesis. There's 100 new cards.
Hey, and now for a quick segment highlighting a new board game available to play online, sponsored by Board Game Arena, who've just released a digital version of the board game Lumen, The Lost World by Lumberjack Studio. Lumen's physical version will be reaching retail soon, but you can play it right now on Board Game Arena, where 2 clans face each other in the Lost World. In the game, the Day Clan and the Night Clan are caught in a never-ending battle for their possession of Lumen. This source of life and power represents the balance between light and dark, and only appears at dawn and dusk. And even then, quantities are limited. So follow the links in this video's description to find an interactive tutorial on how to play Lumen, and the game's BGA page where you can dive right in and start playing right now. And thanks to Board Game Arena for sponsoring this segment.
Big Boss is a game of founding companies, expanding existing companies, taking over smaller companies, and share buying. And while you might say, Matthew, that sounds a little bit like the Sid Saxon classic game Acquire, you'd be right, because Wolfgang Kramer based it on Acquire, adding a 3-dimensional aspect, and Funko Games are bringing this 1994 2 to 6 player classic back. The golden age of industry is here, as skyscrapers and profits, don't forget profits, soar. Now is the time, or so we are told, to build our fortune as we launch companies and invest in new industries to earn capital. Buy shares of burgeoning businesses and reap the rewards of lucrative mergers, and perhaps, just maybe, if you play your cards right, you'll forge a legacy worth of the title Big Boss. This is the first ever English edition of this classic game, and it includes new refreshed design updates, plus components to play with the original rules, which is a nice touch, I always think, as well as it has 100 customized buildings, pieces, 72 unique industry cards, and it looks great, and it's coming to retail really soon. There's a special edition of Bohnanza coming out called Bohnanza Dahlias, and honestly, can we talk about how good Bohnanza is? It's a great game. It's an Uwe Rosenberg classic. And now it's also got great artwork by the fantastically talented Beth Sobel. The 3 to 5 player Bohnanza Dahlias features the same gameplay as the original design, just with all new artwork, which is really a welcome change, while remaining thematic. Brace yourselves, because the new game Forever Home, unfortunately, isn't about hermit crabs, but it is instead a puzzly pattern building game about second chances for shelter dogs. This one's coming from Birdwood Games, who released their other dog-centric game, Dog Park, last year. This one plays 1 to 5 players, and pre-orders are already open on their website. Using a combination of tile placement, set collection and drafting, you and your friends take on the role of shelter workers as you take it in turns to bring dogs into your shelter, complete training cards and match pups up with new families. You'll be competing for valuable shelter commendations, as well as gaining reputation for training and rehoming your dogs in your care, and they are describing it as having quick and simple turns, a unique solo mode and a second advanced side of the player boards. Also, I had a hunch, so I looked into it, and I was right, because Birdwood make an annual donation to guide dogs in England and Wales, and will continue to for as long as Dog Park is in print, based on the gross retail revenue each year. Kutna Hora, the City of Silver from CGE, has 2 to 4 players joining other ambitious guild leaders in mining and developing the famous City of Silver during its rapid period of economic growth and expansion in the 14th century, all the way from the first discovery of silver near the monastery to the construction of Kutna Hora, which quickly became one of the most important cities in Central Europe. So, on top of everything, also means that I learned something about the Czech Republic today. In game terms, Kutna Hora is a historical city-building Eurogame that features what they are calling a real-life supply and demand experience, in which every action you take has an impact on the game's economic systems. Round to round, players select actions from a hand of double-sided cards to engage strategic plans like mining, purchasing plots of land, gaining permits, raising buildings, gaining profit, and of course, what good Euro would exist without the construction of a cathedral? You're building a cathedral in this one as well. It's called St. Barbara's and it's quite beautiful. I really like the look of this one. There's something about the tiles and the artwork that really drew me in when I saw pictures of it, so I'm excited to give it a go when it's released at Essen this year. And that's the news, but head on over here to see more of your questions answered with this month's Matthew Answers the Internet. And I'll see you over there.